Greetings, salutations, citizens of the Imperium. Welcome to another series of Let's Paint. I'm your host, Trooper6, and as I promised, we have the Carcharodons Astra, their grand return. And we're going to be using this nice little, technically a Mark IV Space Marine. I don't know, sometimes I like to think of them as Mark Vs, but it is a Mark IV. And we have this special little Sharky helmet. I'll put a link in the description down below on where you can get helmets like these. They are very nice. I love things like this. So, let's get things started. I have already primed it a flat gray. That is my little shortcut for doing something like that. And we're not going to start with this brush. What we're going to start with is one of my dry brushes, a Nick Pro that I use, a 7 gauge. And a little tip for people, when I use the Rust-Oleum paints, the flat gray, it is the same shade as this uniform gray by Army Painter. And with that being said, I like to highlight with ash gray. It makes for a very nice highlight. Brightens up the model a bit. Whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't think it was going to spill out like that. All right, we're getting messy to start. And like I've said before, we're trying a new setup where we are just trying to get miniatures done all in one episode. That might require for me to do a little bit of cutting. I was about to say cutting and pasting. A little bit of trim work on the episodes. So if things jump, I apologize. I'm not really trying to jump. But either way, if you guys are new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I always enjoy your company. And as you can, oh man, you can see here that I did not shave down the mold lines. Shame on you, Trooper. Shame on you. I'm gonna have to try to play into that when it comes to man, I'm brain farting. When it comes to the exile markings, as I like to call them, or I guess you could even try to say the scrimshaw, even though it is not technically scrimshaw whatsoever, being that scrimshaw is a very specific thing to do. However, we're not here to get into the nitty-gritty of all of that. I hope everybody's doing well. We are recording at 10 p.m. this time. We're not recording at 5 a.m. or even 6 a.m. Trooper did not want to do that. Trooper was tired. I did not want to do that. Just like I don't always want to refer to myself in the third person. Nor do I want to talk like Macho Man Randy Savage. Or even, oh man, Raccoon. I do love doing that kind of stuff, man, though. The name's Raccoon, and it rhymes with doom. And if you guys know what I'm referencing there, you're awesome. I have to grab this helmet just a little bit, brace it so I can get more of the paint on here, because the little tacky stuff that is holding this helmet on is just not the strongest right now. And it doesn't need to be the strongest, but it's okay. Got a little itty bitty bit of the print lines. I don't know if you guys can really see that. But yeah, the print lines are just a little bit there, but not enough for me to not recommend the helmet or the seller who makes them. Oh, excuse me. Because, you know, in classic fashion, I did not write down who the hell made those. But I think we've highlighted that model just fine. We are going to take... yeah, we're going to jump in with Black Templar. I usually go with Black Templar and not Black Legion. because Black Legion is very, very dark, and I feel like I have a little more leeway with Black Templar. But we're gonna do these little straps. We're gonna try. You guys know that I do not really paint models that are already built. However, the reason for this model being what it is, being it put together in such a way, this was originally going to be a trophy. It was going to be painted as a trophy. Basically, what I was going to do, this was like this was a few years ago, before we had moved. I was going to run a paint competition, and I had 3 Marines, and I was going to paint them, you know, the various colors: bronze, silver, gold, and that basically was going to be the prize. And I think I went with a giveaway instead, because I just didn't feel like the painted. I felt like people might have been upset, or might have gotten upset if maybe felt cheaped out in a way if I'd have just not done some kind of giveaway. If I just gave out some painted models and said, here you go, first place, second place, third place. And I don't know, that was me getting in my own head, and it didn't really matter. But regardless, that was a while ago, and I might still do that. But we are here now, and so for my Carcharodons, I believe in going a little more traditional route. Some people don't do things. Some people like to go a little extra with it. And by that I mean I like to do the black pauldrons, of course. That's standard, but I like to do the bronze, or even the true copper, as I've been loving to use for the trim work. Some people leave it at a flat gray. Some people even just make the entire pauldron black. That is fine. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. It doesn't exactly matter. It matters to me, but that's because I paint my models a very specific way. And as you can see, we're just kind of slapping the paint on there. I do black knees, of course. You can change this up and do whatever, especially when it comes to like what squad that they might be a part of. But I usually try to keep it as like 2 black knees. Keep it very standardized. But I figured it was another way for me to keep with the quote-unquote old school, that I don't slap chop this bad boy, you know, by priming them black and then going over, dry brushing everything, and then, yeah. Because he was already primed gray, and I was like, screw it, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother priming him over, or even going over with all the black and whatever. I just didn't want to bother with any of that. I just figured, you know what? I used to prime everything gray, and I'd paint from there. Now I apply more of a slap chop technique, because it really does work for me. I wasn't sure about it at first. And I know people have their qualms about it. You know, but like, well, a real painter, a real talented painter would build up his color and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if anybody's actually going to dare talk like that about people, but I mean, shit, man. There's plenty of times that people wouldn't say things, but they're just going to think it. And honestly, it doesn't matter, does it? No, it doesn't. What matters is how you feel about your model, and that is all the black that we're going to need, except for those eyes. But this brush is a little too janky-janked. I am going to need some new brushes, and that's not something that I can exactly... You know how we had our our haggard ass brush, as I called it, for like 2 seasons. It's not exactly something I can get away with this brush, because the other one is just so, it's a little too fat and it's a little too janky. But man, we got real good slits for those eyes. I like it. I like it a lot. Like it a lot. Now, some of you have wondered a couple times on me, like, hey, you see me clean my brush, then I just kind of wipe it here, and then it disappears for a second. What I'm doing is I'm actually tucking it. Like, think of this as my body and this is my arm. I'm tucking it right there in the pit, and I'm pulling it through. It's very haphazard. I'm not staining my shirts or anything like that. You know, the brush is clean, but it's a way for me to just get it real quick and dry and all that fun stuff. I'm going to get out some mummy robe real quick. Should I? No. We'll go with true copper for now. And we're going to do a couple of things here. Get that copper right out there. We don't need a lot. You don't need a lot. Where's my 0? There's my 0. All right. We want to try to keep this as like close to our old school method as well. Oh my God. What am I doing? I don't need my copper. Oh my goodness. I really do need the Black Templar back out here. Man. Whew. Talk about being all over the place, right? And we're only 11 minutes in. All right. Let's get these shoulders, and we'll be right back with the next step. All right. And I know I said we were going to come back at this next part, and I do still... Oh, my goodness. What is up with this paint, dude? All right. The shoulders are still wet. We're moving right along. It's almost like we're speed painting at this point. I got out the mummy robe. We're going to go ahead and do... So what the Carcharodons usually do is they have like a white faceplate. And with this being such a specific model, I'm sorry if the camera's shaking there, but it's such a specific helmet. You'll see what I mean. Because it has a little bit of a mouth and a chin there. So I can't do all that much white. But it's okay. And I'm using the mummy robe because it's a little bit of an off-white. And that's really all that's going to need. And it's going to look really cool. It'll look really, really cool. However, what we can do, since we already have the model out here, I don't like doing edge highlighting with this brush, but you could take that and just go whoop, 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 whoop. And of course, what I did there was I took the paint, I dabbed my brush, and then I'm taking it on this little edge here, this lip, and I'm just dragging it across it so you can see how the paint is picking up and then going right across all these edges. And it's flattening my brush. And then, of course, I'm taking the brush and I'm dabbing it on my skin, dragging it across so that it becomes real flat and it gets rid of all of the excess, kind of like a dry brush method. And then I'm using the flat edge of the brush and dragging it across. I'm not necessarily trying to dry brush. And I'm not trying to get too much on there. We're just trying to pick up the edges because it is, of course, the edge highlighting. And edge highlighting is real fun. Picks out a lot of things. And it gives your models some real decent definition there. All right, let's see. How do those shoulders look? They're dry, and it's a little thin on the shoulders. So what we're going to do is take that back out, dab a little bit, and we're not going to do much And we're just going to hit the center, because when I go to put on the transfers and I use the solution, the thinner solution, it's going to thin that black out. And if I thin out what's already a thin coat of paint on there, it's not going to look good. So, moving along. All right, we're at 16 minutes. We're already at this part, at least. All right, and the next part will probably go into the gunmetal. But for now, so we've got our copper, our true copper, and we're just going to do this little trim. Going along, kind of like edge highlighting with trim being this small. And with trim being this small, you really don't have to do this on these particular shoulders, these pauldrons. With pauldrons like this, you could just leave it at a dry brush, and no one's going to fault you for that. Because the trim work is not exactly like your standard pauldron. It's not like it's not a big, fat, thick rim just sitting there waiting for you to do your thing. All right. Now, of course, we'll have to get the underside. But for now, we're just going to hit this trim work. And we'll be on our way. Trying to be careful here. All right. For anyone who might be curious, for old time's sake, what music choice we went with today, I decided to go old school with our choices again. I had something else on, like some Final Fantasy ambiance, and I chose for this, I chose to go with our old pal, Mega Man X Jazz, because it's just a classic choice for us. Now, I'm going to hit the center clip on his armor. I want to say you guys can see that. Yeah. I'm going to hit this center piece. I'm going to paint that copper, bronze, however you want to do it. Think that'll work very well. And we're going to jump back to the pauldrons and do the underside. Because if we did the top, you'd have to do the underside. Man, you could tell this is an older model because I did not clean the underside where you clip things with the nipper. I did not necessarily clean that all that well. It's kind of whatever. I've had to deal with that recently when I found some older Mark IIIs that I was like, ooh, I can't pass this up. Having my old Mark IIIs, I miss those models, man. I wish DW would just get with it and reprint that stuff. Because they looked like knights, you know? They really did look like the iron armor. And it's hard to get around that when you have something that looks just that good. And since this is an old school Carcharodon, don't mind me while I get this fan in the middle with bronze for no reason, with a copper. It's just a little choice I'm going to make here because this top plate is probably going to be silver. But the vents are going to be that copper, not brass, I was about to say brass, copper or bronze coloring. Because they tend to have that going for them as well. It's all really your, dealer's choice. I'm going to go for it because it adds a little more color to it, adds some unique flavor to them. It gives them kind of a rustic look in a way. You know, lets them stand out. Not a lot of chapters will do that. They'll leave like their chapter color on there and then do like maybe the bottom rim. It'll be, some kind of metal. Some kind of silver metallic, not just any kind of metal. But for my old school Carcharodons, I do like doing that, because it has a very specific look to it. And I really could do that to the helmet, and I'm not sure if I want to. I'm still kind of thinking about it. But what we are going to do is try to roll this. All right, because, man, this brush is haggard. And not in a good way. The hairs are splitting and everything. But we're going to try to hit. I'm not comfortable with it. So we're going to clean and get rid of that. And we're going to do the knee. Sorry, for the longest time I wasn't painting with a 0 anyway. I was painting with one of these half brushes. But we're going to take the copper and we're going to do the studs on the knee. Again, you could do those in silver if you want. It doesn't really matter. Dealer's choice, dealer's choice. But one thing we did forget was to get this little tube. I forget that on these older models is that they have these little coils or tubes or whatever you might call it that you just don't see on things like Primaris. It's always in the older archaic models. Archaic armors, I should say. And I try to remember to paint them. Sometimes I paint them metal, but most of the time I try to hit them black because it's kind of just what makes sense. If it's a little tube, then it's a little tube. It's like a little conduit just going from one piece to the next piece. You know, nothing big, nothing major. All right. With that, let's go to the next part. Gunmetal. We are trucking, man. Man, this paint is pouring out. It's probably because it's been so hot in this room for the past few days. With the temperature changes coming around, you know, spring is definitely coming. Spring is definitely here. It's not even coming, it's here. And our air conditioner, the window unit, had crapped out from last year, so we had to get a new one. We were waiting 2 days for it to come. It's here. All right. Yeah, I don't know. All right, you guys can probably see it. Like I said, man, this brush is it's so frayed and battered. I've abused it a lot in the past couple months of having this thing, just doing a lot of models. And you guys have seen I've been doing a lot, and it hasn't been 40K. It's actually been Battletech. And that is because I grew up in the 90s. I was playing a game called MechWarrior 3. Yeah, this brush is so janked. I can't do this. You have to go. And I don't like doing this. I don't like using this one right now, but it's whatever. This brush is just fine. So anyway, yeah, I used to play a game called MechWarrior 3 back in like 97 maybe? I can't remember what year it came out. But I had that game on the old family computer. And it was really fun. I wasn't that good at it, I was a kid. But still, man. Still. All right, we're going to move back here to these vents. I'm going to go ahead and paint this tubing silver since I did not paint it black. I see a gray tube and I want it painted black. Sorry, I'm not even that big of a fan of the stones. I feel like, contrary to probably popular belief, I think the stones are a little overrated. Just a little. Do not get me wrong. I do still technically like the Stones. I have an album of theirs on vinyl. No, actually I have two. I have their first record, which I inherited from my mom. And I have their country album, as I call it. Man, I can't even think of the name right now. Not that important. Not that important. Let's get all of this. Just going to slap some silver in there. And then, like I said, I am going to do this top plate. I am going to do this and that silver. It's one less thing that we'll have to dry brush when it comes to, or not dry brush, edge highlight. We just won't have to do it. And for me, that works. Plus, sometimes it gives it a, you know, another unique look. Maybe it'll look rustic to some people. Maybe it'll just look, you know, unique. I don't know. It's something I don't ever really see people doing. And when it comes to that, I like doing things like that. I'm like, well, other people are not doing this, so... You know, it's something that help give your model like a signature look. You know, if you're one of those people that would like to have something that looks specifically you. If you don't have a signature paint style that really sticks out there, like, you know, people can look at artwork out there and go, well, yeah, that's Van Gogh. Yeah, that's Picasso. If they can't look at your artwork and say that, maybe you need something that's a very much like a signature. And I'm not saying that you need it. That's just really if you want it. It really is just if you want that. Some people might even say, hey, why do you paint them with black eye lenses and not give them, you know, a glow? I don't think they need a glow. You know, sharks don't have glowing eyes, and I never pictured my Carcharodons having glowing eyes. I just never, ever pictured that, you know? Let me see if I can find another brush over here that would be okay for... Oh. Well, isn't that stupid? I think it'll be okay. So, this is a brand spanking new brush, but it is a 3 gauge. This is giant. This is not what we're used to using, and this might just backfire on us. But we're going to go ahead and edge highlight. I've seen plenty of some amazing painters out there use brushes this big to do edge highlighting. And I don't know if it's for one reason or another, but I do know that we're just going to use it right now. That's not working. That part isn't, at least. That wasn't cool, but that's okay. Moving on. Moving on. Move along. Move along. As Star Wars fans would say. All right. Let's do that knee a little bit. I think we'll be okay, maybe. I don't know. It's probably not sharp enough down there. Oh, my finger was totally just resting on that. That's not cool. Whatever. We're moving along. Not that we're trying to rush through this, but at this point, I'm like, wow, we're making a lot of progress. And honestly, this is how quick Carcharodons really could be for you. And we're already getting a crappy looking brush right there. And we're going to discard it. We're going to go back to my 0, or is it my 2/0? Yeah. My 2.0, as I call it sometimes, even though that's not at all what that is. It doesn't matter. It's small enough and it's sharp enough I can get it for edge highlighting. It's what I've been using lately for a little bit of edge highlighting. Sometimes it works well, sometimes I have to get a lot of it. But anyway, we'll since we're just going to do a bunch of edge highlighting, we'll catch up when this is done and we'll hit the next part. All right. And for one part that I forgot I was going to do, as we were just moving along so fast, is I got out some snakebite leather, a nice little contrast paint. And I'm going to quickly slap some leather on the belt right under here. Something that I kind of forgot about. Not necessarily something that you have to do. You could just absolutely leave that if you want, and I don't think many people are going to even notice that you didn't paint that you didn't paint a belt. One of the things I used to like to do was I like to use natural looks to them, which would be in like I'm gonna put all the leather on there, and then I would put man, I can't even think. Oh, like wood on the grip of the bolter, so where his hand would go, I would paint that brown, like a really like an oak brown. But we're gonna go ahead and attach this helmet, so we're gonna throw a little bit of super glue right there. The helmet is ready diddy, and it doesn't want to attach. All right, that means we need a little bit more glue back here where it's really going to stick. There we go. I think what a lot of people forget when it comes to Carcharodons, if you're going to have their head exposed, I know how people feel about helmetless space marines, but if you're going to have their head exposed, you have to remember that they are silent warriors. So if you have a bunch of screaming heads, it doesn't necessarily line up with the lore, if you even care about that. They don't yell. They're known for being that much more terrifying for being a silent killer. They're sharks. They're not stalking through the water screaming at you. Just, motherfucker! It's very much the dana, dana, da 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 bow bow. And time for the base work. We're gonna go with Armageddon Dust, a technical paint from Citadel. It is one of my favorite bases to do because it's just so easy. You don't have to get fancy with it. You really don't. But with a lot of legions out there, it's a nice contrast. It's a real easy paint to use. It will break your brush down, so I would use one that you don't mind getting all gritty, because this is one of those texture paints. It's very gritty, very messy. This stuff is awesome though. I love Armageddon Dust. And you see already, it is popping against that gray. It's going to look great. It's what I use for what I call my wasteland bases, which I've been considering just doing a quick, like a how-to. How do you do? I was going to do a how-to for the wasteland base. I was going to do a how-do for the trench base that I used to do. Or even one from No Man's Land. For those, I might wait until I have gotten a really good look for it. But the Wasteland, it's just so easy. Not to sound like that guy, but I mean, it's easy for me. Do I mess it up? Of course I do. Of course I do. I'm not perfect with this. I might call myself a professional painter, but I'm still a jackass like any of you. It's kind of whatever. But we are looking pretty decent. I want to get just a little bit more. There we go. And I try to mess with it a lot. As you can see, I'm like dabbing. It's because I'm not trying to have it look glooped, glupped, globbed. I want it to be very edgy. Not Night Lord edgy. But you need to look like dirt. You don't need to look like paint. You know? And there you go. Simple as that. Ain't that cool? That was real easy and simple. But since that's going, while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and skip to the next part, which will be the transfers. And I will see you guys there in just 1, 2, 3. Okay, I lied. I forgot that we need to do the infamous exile markings, scrimshaw, whatever you want to call it. What I'm going to grab is this little gauge, and I've nicked it. So it is now a really short, a little short brush. What I usually use this for is, say, for like the BattleTech stuff, I use it for the, oh my god, for the like the cockpits and whatnot. But either way, we are going to attempt to do this for you. So I get it nice and flat, and then we're going to just kind of freehand whatever design comes to mind. Now you can look at any kind of reference picture of the Mallory if you would like. I highly recommend that, especially if this is going to be one of your first times ever painting Carcharodons. Very much look at who they're inspired by. That will help you in the long run. For me, I kind of wing it and hope that everything comes out okay. I don't really know if it will, and if it doesn't, that is okay. But I just kind of do my thing, you know? And I'm still using that mummy robe. Still using the mummy robe. It is okay. And that's not bad. I like that. I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to move on to the next part. I think I'll leave that thigh alone. I'm going to come over to this shin and go right under this way. And then I'm going to cut like that. Oh, all right. Well, it's a lot fatter than I wanted it to be, so I'm going to stop it there. And then we are going to cut this way. You guys able to see? I'm sorry if you're not able to see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying here. Trying. Not going for a mirror of what is on the other side. I'm doing my best. Doing my best. I'm not sure what to do over here. You know what? I think we'll make a short line, and then we'll carry this down a little bit. That mold line is really screwing with me. And then you know what? We'll go for another long line, and we're gonna try to swing it back, maybe like that. And then we'll just do that. That'll be okay. That'll be okay. Remember, we don't want to do too much. I feel like the more ancient sharks are gonna have a lot more design on them. So you can, by all means, You don't have to overdo it. You know, overkill is a thing. You don't want to overdo it. Let me clean my brush real quick, and let's see what we can do on the arm. I'm not trying to grab too much paint either, because it's just going to be a waste. God. Would be a waste if I even had paint on there, right? I got the classic, like, lip out, tongue dancing on the lip. It's almost a bit nerve-wracking to try to do it. You know what? I don't really like this one, so I'm going to put a notch right there. Make it look like I did all that on purpose. You know what? Since this went a little further, I'm going to put a notch back. I'm going to leave it just like that, and we're going to move on. Pretend like it was supposed to be there on purpose. Now, we really could do something around the face, and I want to. So what we're going to do is arc above the eye, almost like an eyebrow. All right. And we're going to arc up, arc up. I don't have a plan, so just bear with me. But sometimes the like the face tattoos can be pretty cool. But I think we'll have to go back down a little bit like that, and that's not bad. We can just leave it at that, and I think we'll be okay. I think we'll get away with that. And how about another one on the arm? Brush is getting a little dried on me. Give me a second. All right. Trying to find some still wet enough paint. Because the more the paint dries, the more this thing is a kind of a pain to work with here. Make that go just a little further back. And we'll take this, and we'll take this. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It can really just be that simple. And I kind of like that. Now I want to do something on this thigh here. I feel like one leg needs to be just a little bit more. And as you can see, I'm doing very angled thing. I'm not doing a lot of round edges or curves or anything. And that is kind of by design. It's just my kind of style. I've seen plenty of people do some oh man, sorry. The music ended, so I'm just going to start that over so we don't have to waste any time on that. But we're going to come back down like this. And man, there's just not enough paint here to justify me trying to do any of this. And whoop, that blob is coming right out, not having to squeeze it. Bloop, 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 bloop. All right. Where were we? Right. Let's bring it across the thigh. So he has a nice little elongated Z there. Give a little dash. and a bigger dash. And how about a line down here like that? That'll be okay. But what are we going to do on this side? How about something like this? I don't know if it's going to work. That'll be okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be just so much. Just something. You know, something that kind of flows with things. Kind of gives you a little bit of balance to the model. And that's really all you got to do. And since we're here, we're okay to jump over to the transfers. We've got our brushes, we have that, and we have our water cup here. So let's just go ahead and wet these bad boys, get them wet, get them soaked, and get them in there. We're working with an hour, so it'll be a little less than an hour, something like that. And I think we're just going to get these bad boys on there. I chose some Carcharodons specific battle line arrow. I chose a Roman numeral 3 for third squad. I will put that on his knee. And you guys can see him when he hits the turntable. So I do want to tell you guys that I very much appreciate you stopping by. I hope all of this was informative. If you guys would like me to spend a little more time, like say if you really do want to see the transfers, I figured people have seen me do transfers time and time again. Either way, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share, spread the video around. Let's get the Pungolians up to full strength. We're at like 933 subscribers, so we're doing pretty good. And I can't wait to see more. As I've said before, when it comes to as it comes to the 1,000 subscriber mark, we are going to do a Q&A. I had a poll done on YouTube, and the yes votes outweighed the no votes. So we are going to do a Q&A video. But I guess until then, I will see you guys on the next round. And may the Void Father guide your brush. Peace.